Take it easy and solve the school lunch problem with SPAM. S-P-A-M.
こんにちは、タイガークローラジオ。You are listening now. Back J.
You are listening to Tiger Claw Radio. Number one in vintage computer and video game entertainment. And now your host, Critical Failure.
Yes, indeed. You guys know what that sound means. Oh, yes. It is time, ladies and gentlemen, for Tiger Claw Radio. This week, we got some delicious stuff for you. We got some tracks to play. We've got some van casts, and we've got a mighty fine fail bag for you. So lots of different stuff for you for your listening pleasure. All right. We're going to kick things off with a track called Trademarks. Excuse me. It's from Trademarks and Copyrights. That's the name of the artist. The track is called No Strings Attached. Now, this particular song was featured on an album that I was after for a while. The album is called So Hot, and there was a guy who had a cassette tape copy that they were selling on Vaporwave cassettes over on Reddit, and we couldn't land a deal, which was unfortunate. I was like, hey man, I'll give you $7 for that tape. And he was like, shipping is too much. It cost me $3 just to get it out to you. Or what was it, $3 or $4 or something like that. I don't know. We couldn't make it happen, which is unfortunate. I really wanted that tape. So let's chill. Let's take a listen. You're listening to Tiger Claw Radio.
Just set me free tonight. Just a prisoner of your love. Oh, sentence me tonight.
So that's a bit of Vaporwave. Now, I haven't quite worked out what you guys think of Vaporwave as a whole. Last week we played something from the New York Stock Exchange album, and based on the comments, it didn't go over too well. So that particular track we just heard there, it's a bit more approachable. It's got that slowed down / chilled out feeling that Vaporwave usually has, but it's also, it has a rhythm you can follow. It's not asynchronous. And it's not too far out there. So that's something I think Trademarks and Copyrights does very well, is making good, solid, approachable Vaporwave. Coming up next on this Vancast, we got a little bit about Tim Sweeney. And oh yeah, does that game give you a terrible night sometimes? Good. Stick with us. It's Tiger Claw Radio. Morning, everybody. It's the Vancast. It is Monday morning. I am off to work. Let's see. It's pretty cold out, but it's been much colder. It's weird. We got like maybe 24 degrees out, but I'm walking outside thinking, hey man, it's nice. It's warmed up to 24 degrees, so that's great. It's been a heck of a weekend. In gaming news, people are upset about Epic Games, the Epic Games launcher. They are now their own online video game store, much the same way Steam, GOG, who else? Origin, Ubisoft's service, whatever they got. Epic is doing another one, and people are saying it's really bare bones and dumb, and they don't really offer any services to warrant such a thing. Moreover, Tim Sweeney was quoted a few years back. Tim Sweeney, the CEO. Is he the CEO? I don't know. Some person named Tim Sweeney, and you might know that name from some of the old Epic games back when they were Epic Mega Games. Tim Sweeney made Jill of the Jungle, and he made ZZT, and he was the lead developer on the Unreal Engine in its early days. He was like, yeah, we need to have an open PC environment. That's what causes the PC to thrive. And now people are saying he's in creating another store, he's locking it down somehow. To be honest, I haven't done a whole lot of reading on the subject. I don't play Fortnite, so I haven't been using the the Epic launcher. It kind of sounds like he's trying to parlay Fortnite into, hey, let's be our own Steam. Notch did the same thing. He was quoted saying one of the reasons why Minecraft didn't get on Steam was Notch saying, we kind of wanted to do our own thing like Steam. Now, of course, that never happened, but kind of sounds like Epic is lining themselves up the same way. We'll have to see. I gotta say, now versus 2012, the market is a lot friendlier to the idea of multiple platforms now than it was back in those days. Back in 2012, it was like, you better be Steam or that's it. GOG was barely hanging on. GOG didn't have GOG didn't have a client in those days. You would just download the DRM free games, and that was all it was, and that was how it survived. And that was pretty much it. And there was Gamersgate, but Gamersgate, I didn't do a whole lot of business with them, to be honest. I was in a press program for a while. They were giving me codes to review, but it didn't really last long. And just as a service by themselves, most of what they sell is Steam keys, so it's like, what's the point? So we'll have to see, They want to sell games. One thing I've come to believe is if you're going to sell games online, then you better bring something to the table that the other services don't have. You know what I mean? Twitch sells games too, don't they? But at least that's like integrated into the Twitch app. So if you're a streamer, then I guess it offers some convenience that you wouldn't get otherwise. You got to bring something to the table that the other services don't have. Make some kind of game that you can't get anywhere else. I don't know. Do something. We can't have another service that just sells the same games. All right. I have a feeling that's like the outrage of the week. And in another week, then it'll just be part of the gaming culture, and everyone will have forgot about it. So, over this past week, I finished Resident Evil 5 for a second time. So I have a feeling that that's going to be the end of me talking about Resident Evil 5 for a little while. After I finished it, I moved back to Dead by Daylight. Which is still a good game. I tried to do a couple rounds as the killer. Didn't go great. Here's the thing about Dead by Daylight. They offer these daily rituals. A lot of games do this. It's like every day you get 3 missions. Hey, hook this guy using this specific killer. hey, go in as this specific survivor and escape. Things you can do every day, and if you do those things, you get rewarded with a large amount of points, which you can use to level up, and get new abilities, and get all sorts of new tools and gizmos. So I sat down and I wanted to do the daily rituals. Now they were based, on this particular day, they were all based on playing as the killer, specifically playing as the shape. Play as the shape, level up your special ability 3 times. Play as the shape, hook 2 people or whatever. So I says, all right, I'll play as the shape. You know, Michael Myers from Halloween. Let's do it. I went out there and I forgot how bad, like a bad match as the killer can be. See, when you play as the survivor, and I know I've said this before, when you play as the survivor and you have a bad match, killer puts you on the hook, and then, or maybe puts you on the hook once or twice, but you die, and then that's the end of the game, and then you can move right on to the next match. When you play as the killer and you're having a bad match, it just drags out. It drags out. And I ended up, let's see, I got to the end and all 4 people were escaping and they were all hanging out outside the exit, giving me the taunt motion, the come on motion, so that I would come chase them, and then at the last second they would escape. But since I knew I wasn't getting a single person and there weren't going to be any blood points to speak of, I just disconnected. It's like, fine, if you guys want to taunt me by the exit and none of you are getting the escape. So I disconnected as the killer, which shuts down the entire match. How about that? You want to taunt a little bit more? GG, mate. I don't usually disconnect. I know it's kind of like a ratty thing to do. But I was pissed, man. That's a game that it can get you fired up. I mean, if you're having a bad night, it can get you fired up. But here's the thing: you need to be able to have a bad night. The game has to be capable of giving you a bad night in order for it to mean anything when things finally fall into place. You know what I mean? This is the reason why when you play Counter-Strike and you have that one perfect match where you're gunning them down, it's so worth it. It's so it becomes a story worth telling. Hey, I aced a round in Global Offensive last night. It was pretty great. You know, because we know how hard that is. So we had a couple rounds that went bad in Dead by Daylight. This morning, when I sat down, I didn't know what to play, but it didn't matter because I spent the morning getting last week's TCR up and running. But those have been like my main 2 games over the last several weeks: Dead by Daylight and Resident Evil 5. And when I sat down this morning, I couldn't load either one of those 2 games up. Last night, I played the Mean Greens Plastic Warfare, played that a little bit more, see how that's doing. A couple things about that: they dropped the regular price from $10 down to $5, so good on them. Taking a little bit less per copy to increase the player base, which I think was a great move. And when I loaded it up, there were still plenty of people playing. There were a lot of servers that were full. So I had a couple games of that. I played this one match where we were in a freezer, and each team was trying to unleash their dinosaur. Right, you were in a freezer, and then you had like a plastic dinosaur that was encased in ice. So you'd get out your flamethrower, you'd go to the dinosaur, and you'd unleash the flamethrower, and the ice would slowly melt. Meanwhile, while the ice was melting, the other team would come and try and kill you. Or they would try and unleash their own dinosaur, and thus whoever completed the task first was the winner. That was a good one. I enjoyed that. I like the environments in this game. This is the Mean Greens do their maps very well, I would say. Alright, hang on a second here. So that was a good time as well. And now I'm off to work. And we're gonna see how that goes. Oh yeah, over the weekend, there was one point where we sat in my office, me and my kids, and my daughter was playing Terraria on the PC. So I fired up my Xbox 360. Now, I haven't ran this machine in quite some time. From what I understand, this is a machine, my particular model of the 360 is among those that are capable of red ringing. So I know it's not going to last. This is not a machine I'm going to have for years and years and years. But I fired it up anyway. Let's give it a shot. Let's see. It had Dead or Alive Extreme 2. Beach volleyball was sitting in the drive. So I pulled that out, started flipping through my 360 games. I wanted to play Black Ops, because I got a copy of Black Ops that I picked up at a thrift store, and I really wanted to put that in and run the zombies mode, just a couple. But I was sitting in there with my daughter, and she's only 4, so I was like, we're gonna save zombies mode for when the 4-year-olds aren't in the room. So I ended up playing King of Fighters 2002. Unlimited Match. Now, this was the first system I ever played that game on, I believe. It was when I bought it for the 360 eons ago. Still a good game, man. In my opinion, it is the best King of Fighters. I would put that game against any of the modern King of Fighters games or any of the original Neo Geo games. It is the best. Maintains that the classic animation style. It hasn't gone 3D yet, but it also has the biggest roster. It hits the balance. It hits the balance perfectly. Got to sit down with that, not for very long either. Probably like, probably about 15 minutes. I played that, and I played some of my old Xbox Live indie games. Do you guys remember those? Remember Xbox Live indie games? They were pretty bad. I played a game called Lodestar. I'm inclined to think it had a number, like Lone Star 1000 or something, but I don't know that for sure. I can't really remember. It's a little robot, and it's essentially like the game Simon, where he shows you a controller, and then shapes will light up, and then you have to follow the same pattern using the controller. I can't imagine like getting all fired up about the latest next-gen console and then sitting down with a game like Lodestar. There's a little bit of irony in that. So Xbox owners out there, does the Xbox One still have the old Xbox Live indie games? Is that still a thing? Let me know, because I'm really curious to find out. I don't know, maybe I'll have to do that research on my own. We'll see. If I were able to just turn around and go home now, what would I play? I'm in between games. I'm in between obsessions. So realistically, I'd probably just end up flipping through my Steam collection for 15 to 20 minutes. But I'm kind of leaning towards some classic Rudy Tooty point and shooty. A good, hey, I'm in between games kind of game, like playing Doom 2. Doom 2's got a lot of WODs that I haven't played yet. There was a Splatterhouse WOD for Doom 2 that was making the rounds probably about 3 to 4 months ago. I saw it on YouTube. I follow a couple channels on YouTube that just play games, that just play Doom 2 or Quake, and they play a lot of custom WODs and custom mods and stuff. That way I can see what's out there, right? There's no commentary, nothing. It's just like, hey, we're gonna play the Splatterhouse WOD for Doom 2. What? I didn't know that was a thing. You know, so I would probably end up chasing down the Splatterhouse WOD, giving that a go, and just to see. I somehow get the feeling that wouldn't be something I would get hooked on. That wouldn't be my next big thing. But the classic Rudy Tooty point and shooty, man. It's one of those things that I can always depend on. And with that, I'm going to send you guys back to the studio. I will see you there. Oh yes, friends, we are back in Panzer Studios. I messed with the levels a little bit. I think I was coming through a little bit tinny. How does that sound? I hope that's a little better. All right, so I got some more tracks I want to play here. But first, we're about 20 minutes in. This is the part of the show I like to thank the patrons. These are the Patreon sponsors who are giving of their resources to make sure we're coming back every single week. Because without these guys, I can't keep this up. So I like to give them a little bit of supporter-exclusive content, and I read their names off in a hall of distinguished gentlemen. They are Hemrock, James, Sendu, Tecmo Balls, and Darabka. Thank you guys so very much. So now what we want to do is have a bit of fun. This is from, who do we say this was? Versetti? Versetti. And the album is Online Dating. This is the third track on the album. It's got a bit more of a future funk / city pop vibe to it. Those are two subgenres that I get confused. I think the only real difference is that city pop is future funk with Japanese words. So I guess this qualifies it as city pop, but it's a bit more danceable than vanilla vaporwave is. So compare this with trademarks and copyrights. See what you think. You're listening to Tiger Claw Radio. Really good track. It really is. I think that might be better than when I first sat down with that album. I was like, yeah, it's okay. It's pretty good. It's got some potential. Hearing that track a second time, it's like, yeah, I think there's some real talent there. All right. You know, there was I'm not sure if I mentioned this earlier in the Vancast, but there was a record that came out from J. Arthur Keynes. J. Arthur Keynes was a chiptune artist back in the 8-Bit Collective days, who's still around. And he had some vinyl drop, and I got the alert in my email box 2 days later, and I went and they were already sold out. Well, that happened again today. There was a 7-inch that came out, and I got that alert a couple hours after it was released, and they were already sold out. I was pissed. So I stopped following J. Arthur Keynes on Bandcamp. If that's the way it's going to be, then I don't need the aggravation. God bless him. He makes really good music. Oh, man. I wouldn't say he's chiptune anymore, but maybe in the coming weeks I'll collect some J. Arthur Keynes music, and we'll take a listen and see how he's changed over the years. But that's good stuff as well. All right, so let's do this. After last week I went bananas with the van casting. I was just having a good time talking to you guys and hanging out. So, we ended up running really long. Well, this week's a little different. I wanted to do more stuff here in the studio, so I only did 2 van casts. We did one Monday morning, and we did one on Thursday. So this is the Thursday one. All right, everybody. Let's go in our time machines back to just yesterday morning. You're listening to Tiger Claw Radio. Good morning, everybody. It's the Vancast. It is Thursday morning. I just lost track of the days for a second there. Thursday, yes, that is today. Give me a second here. We got to defrost the windshield. Not too bad. It is, let's see. It's a wet morning. It rained yesterday. And it is, 50, 55 degrees or so, thereabouts outside right now. So it's actually pretty nice. I got my jacket on, but I'm not freezing. I didn't have to scrape anything off the windshield. You know, we had that real cold, that bitter cold sweep through the nation last week, and then this week it was really pleasant out. It even got up to like 65 degrees. So I was able to go jogging, get a good run in yesterday and the day before. So I'm feeling pretty good. Through the cold weather, I've only been able to get down to the gym on Saturday and do my running there, because I'm not going to go run in the freezing cold. And only running on Saturday, like, by the time the next Saturday rolls around, I can feel that I've lost something. So it was nice to be able to get out in the middle of the week, you know, and keep it up a little bit. In terms of video games, I got up early this morning, played some Raiden 4. Haven't played Raiden 4 in a while. You guys might remember that sometime last year there was a pretty intense high score battle between myself, Saga, Alex Swingle, and Retro Kaiser. The four of us played some Raiden 4. I got that game out to see how it would go. There's a lot of memorization involved in being good at Raiden 4. So going back to it after not having played for a while, obviously I wasn't able to hit my high score mark, but it was fun. I used to be able to play, like, in order for me to get a decent score, I got it down so where I could beat the first stage without losing a life and without using a bomb. And I came to the realization, alright, that has to happen in order for this to be a run that's going to get me any high scores. Because I'll need all those resources later in the game. Raiden 4 is a fun game. I enjoy it very much. I like the Raiden series as a whole, but over the last year, I would say I've been playing a whole lot more of the old Raiden games. I've got Raiden Trad on the Sega Genesis. That gets played quite a bit. And then I would occasionally load up Raiden Legacy, which is like the first couple games, and play that. So yeah, it was fun to go back to Raiden 4. Man, I barely touched Raiden 5 though. When Raiden 5 came out, I was all excited. Like, it's a new Raiden game, guys. It's a new Raiden game. Flagship shmup series. Flagship shooter. Let's get this. And I did manage to get a hold of it, but I don't know, it didn't resonate with me. Maybe I just need to go back and give it a second shot. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes it's just like, there's nothing wrong with the game itself. I'm just too wrapped up in something else I'm playing at the time for it to really stick. So now that I've beat the pants off of Resident Evil 5, and I'm kind of in between games, might be the perfect time to go back to it. So this Lunar Sale hit on Steam, and I got a couple of things. But I was most looking forward to getting that Resident Evil 5 DLC, because I talked about that ad nauseum for the past couple of weeks. And none of the Resident Evil stuff is on sale, so go figure. People are still really excited about Resident Evil 2, and I've seen barely any footage of the game. I saw one WebM, so I haven't clicked into a single video to watch to see how it is. I liked the old Resident Evil 2. When I was a kid, when I was 16, 17, I used to buy PC games from the Best Buy, or not Best Buy, from the GameStop nearby, and I'd bring them home. Walk 40 minutes out to the mall with like $20, buy a game from the GameStop, because you could buy big box PC games from the GameStop at that time. And I would only have $20, so it would be like more often than not, it would be like a budget title. And I would run it home. Now, during that time, I got a lot of games that would be worth a lot if I still had them. Quake 1, 2, 3, Unreal Tournament when it was brand new. I got some pinball stuff. I bought the Wizardry Archives. A little of this, a little of that, and whatnot. Hang on one second here. What on earth was I talking about that got me back to buying big box PC games at GameStop all those years ago? What on earth was I talking about? Ah, yes, I remember the point I was making now. We were talking about Resident Evil. So during that time, one of the games I picked up was a big box PC version of Resident Evil 2. Go figure. This was a weird thing. Never mind how much money it would or wouldn't be worth. I'm sure it'd be worth some money now. But I've never seen anything like that before or since. I wish I still had that. I've talked about it on the air many times, I'm sure. And one of the things that sticks out the most was if you played Resident Evil 2 on the PlayStation, you may remember they hid the loading screens by those door opening sequences. Kind of like a trademark of those early Resident Evil games. The camera would cut, it would show a door, the door would open, it would show the camera moving towards the door. That was their transition scene, and it was also how they hid the loading screens. Now on the PC version, it didn't have to load like that. It loaded a little bit, but it didn't have to sit there and spin quite as much as a PlayStation. So you could press the space bar and it would skip those door zooming scenes altogether. And that made the flow of the game super fast. I wish I still had that. And I think, never mind the fact that I had a great big box that was gorgeous. I wish we had access to those first 3 games again. Capcom's making bundles. We got we got the Street Fighter bundle. We've got the what is it now? The beat 'em up bundle. Get my original 3 Resident Evil games. Get them together in a pack. Charge too much money for it. That's fine. Get that out there, guys. You're making Resident Evil games every couple of years now. Let's get our original 3. I know you're trying to pretend. Excuse me. I know you're trying to pretend they don't exist, right? The original Resident Evil was remade for the GameCube, and then you had Resident Evil 2, which is now remade for all platforms. What about Resident Evil 3, huh? You gonna pretend that one didn't happen? Come on now. Those first 3 games. That first game in particular was such a seminal game. Such a, maybe you don't like pushing things, maybe you don't like the tank controls, but that's a game that changed absolutely everything. Absolutely everything. Moving on from the Resident Evil series. So the Tiger Score 1 has been out for a couple of days, or a couple of weeks, week or 2. So yeah, that's been pretty cool. Looking on Twitter and seeing the response. Desm posted a picture of his printed copy. He printed out a copy and tacked it to the wall. And I thought that was the coolest thing ever. I thought that was really neat. So I opened up the draft. Excuse me. I opened it up and started drafting the next month's issue this morning. It seems like the original pinball for the NES, Black Box Pinball, that's the game that everybody wanted to play. I got responses for that game for a couple of people. And that, and Hemrock tried Gorf 2 weeks ago, and that's it. That's been the extent of the response so far. So, we'll see how it goes. I really enjoyed how the first issue did. I was happy with the product. I was happy that people printed it, and I was happy that people went and played the games. Got an email from Kaiser, which is awesome. Retro Kaiser's so busy writing for Emerald Rangers, I don't get to talk to him much anymore. It's been like a long time since I communicated with him. Kaiser, if you're out there, brother, big hugs, man. I hope everything's going good for you, brother. So that was cool. That was cool that he fired up the original pinball and was like, let's give this game a spin. And with that, we come to the question of what would I be playing were I back home right now and able to take the day off. Well, you got to understand, with the mornings for me, I get 1 hour to play games. 1 hour, provided I can get myself out of bed on time, which, most of the time I do. So this morning I spent half of that time working on the next Tiger score, and I had some breakfast, had a banana, and I had some hot tea, and in the end I really only had about 15 minutes to play Raiden 4. This was the first time I played Raiden 4 since the high score battle was hot, so it was enough to whet the appetite and really remind me what a good game that was. But I had to walk away from it what feels like virtually right after starting it up. So if I were able to go home and play games right now, you can bet money it would be Raiden 4. Sometimes I'm kind of waffly about it. Like, I could play Raiden 4. I could play Quake. I could play Mercenaries mode on RE5. This is a no contest situation. I would walk in the door, throw my jacket on the floor, and sit right down with Raiden 4. And with that, boys and girls, I gotta go do my Thursday at the office, and I'm gonna send you guys back to the studio, where my comfortable chair is, and my mugs, and my hot tea, and my video games. One place I wish I was at right now. I'll see you there. Back here in the studios, you're listening to Tiger Claw Radio. Look, that did have a happy ending, because I did end up playing a whole lot more Raiden 4 after making that recording. So I feel like, in the end, I got what I wanted. And you know what? I went to work that day, and it turned out just fine. It really did. I'm going to tell you the truth. I did okay. So we've got... I want to go over some points before we do the fail bag, but before that even, we got one more track we're going to play. We're going to play a third track here. Now this is from Marcy, M-A-R-S-E, excuse me, there's no E. Oh gosh, I blew that. I blew it already. M-A-R-S-Y, and the name of the track is Her. I don't know if this is a fair pick for this album, because this is a really funky, really dancey, upbeat album. Right? But this opening track is comparatively pretty mellow. So I pre-picked this. I had a day where I set aside, 15-20 minutes, and I got together a bunch of MP3s to play on the next several episodes of TCR. So this is one I've pre-picked. So now I'm going to play it. What I think happened was I was kind of sampling the album and flipping through it. Then I plucked this song as one to play. And then after that happened, I spent the next couple weeks listening to the album and picked other favorites. But it's a great album. And the album is called Her. And this track is called High Femme. It's the first track. And you're listening to Tiger Claw Radio. More when we come back. So you can probably hear, I mean, if you've listened to any of this future funk stuff, you know how it goes. That rips right into like some pretty strong disco as soon as that ends, and it's probably why the track's so short as well. I mean, that's only what a minute and 22 seconds. I'd say that's more of an intro to an album or an EP than really a song. But that's what I picked. I don't know what I was thinking. I'll have to go back and pick something else from that album for a future show. Good stuff, though. All right. So we got the fail bag next. We're 41 minutes in. I could cut right to the fail bag right now, and we could be on our merry way. But there were a couple other things that happened. So last night I went thrifting. My wife and I went out to thrift stores. Now this is something I was looking forward to all week. We set the date. We got care for the kids. They were hanging out with Grandma and Grandpa. It was just my wife and me. We were going to go out. We're going to go to some thrift stores. I love the thrift stores, guys. Look, I understand it's not what it used to be. All right? Well, you used to be able to walk into thrift stores and find games, right? This very thrift store, I found quite a few games. They used to have a little tub of Sega Genesis games that you could just go through and things like that. I can point to a few pieces in my collection. Like Gauntlet 3 or 4 for the Sega Genesis I got here, as well as Bust-A-Move 2, which I got for less than $1. That's for the Nintendo 64. I mean, a few things like that. But those days are gone. After all that happened, we found out somebody was paying off the people in the back so that they could save the video games for them. Now, when I saw that go down, that was a while ago now. I don't know if that's still the case. I have to assume it is. But then again, the person they have been paying off may have been fired. I never know. Who knows? So I still go there because I'm into vintage audio. And my wife finds a lot of really good household stuff just around there. So it's fun. You guys know I've been into the tapes. I've been going to cassette culture over on Reddit. And that's been great. I'm not going to go through each release, but I made my first real big thrift store score of cassette tapes since I started going to cassette culture back in October. So it's been several months now. It was my first real solid score. 10 tapes, and again, not going over them all, but there's a lot of 80s stuff. I got a Go-Go's tape, and I took some chances on some stuff I'd never heard of, and they ended up being like 80s and new wave. And then I also got Bruce Springsteen. I got Elvis Costello and the Attractions, which I'm excited about because I got 2 of those tapes when I was much younger, from many, many years ago. Bruce Springsteen. Did I say Bruce Springsteen already? I got Neil Diamond just because it was there, and my wife loves Neil Diamond. But here's the reason why I bring this up. I got the tapes, and then while I was looking around at like the hardware, I saw this gorgeous 8-track player. Now, let me fill you guys on where I'm at with 8 tracks. I want to get into 8 tracks, and I've wanted to for a little while now. I think it was this video this guy made over on Cassette Culture, Pad Chennington, who's like he's got a pretty sizable YouTube channel, and he put Floral Shop, which is that Cornerstone vaporwave album. Love it or hate it. That's the one. He took that and he put it on an 8-track. Got himself a pink blank 8-track, recorded that album on there, and made a custom label. And hey guys, I've got Floral Shop on an 8-track. And then I started looking at what these things were, and I want to get into 8 tracks. So I got one 8-track, and the reason why I bought one is so that if I do the hardware, if I get a hold of a player, I want to be able to test it and know right away if it works. So the one 8-track, ironically and not on purpose, was Neil Diamond. It was the Neil Diamond Gold. I'm not a huge Neil Diamond fan, but I've seen him live, and I know my wife loves him. So, Neil Diamond. If you go to the Washington Nationals baseball games, they always play Sweet Caroline. Every game they do this. Sweet Caroline. Then they cut the music, and everybody in the crowd goes, ah-oh. because it's Washington, D.C. and at a sporting event. So that happens. Anyway, so I saw this 8-track player, and this thing, let me tell you, was gorgeous. I've been learning a lot about 8-tracks and how they work and what the hardware was like. And let me tell you that not every 8-track player had a record function. That wasn't... Some had them, some didn't. But this one did. And it was great. And I put it in the basket, and they wanted $15 for it. $15, and it was 25% off night. So it was in the basket. And I was walking around with it. And my wife was like looking at, clothes and stuff, household things. And I was just like playing with this 8-track player. And I noticed the record button was pushed in and it was stuck. And I was thinking, I don't know, maybe I can do something with this. Maybe I should just get it anyway. I don't care. Whatever. And my wife was like, take it back there. I know I never knew this, but she was like, there's power strips that run that whole wall. Just go plug it in and see what happens. And I brought it back and plugged it in, and sure enough, the record light was stuck on, and it broke my heart. I don't know what I was expecting for a $15 8-track player at a thrift store. I've been looking at these things online, and we're talking about like $200 is what I'm looking at right now. To get one that's been cleaned up, has new belts, that's been cared for, and is up and running. $200. Yeah, that's to get one that I can put into like my stereo system, because I know you can get them for cheaper if you get like a little portable thing. They're still expensive, but not that expensive. So it broke my heart that it was broke-did. So I just ended up getting the cassette tapes, and that was really it. I went along my merry way. No real video game finds. Excuse me. This is one thing I put down, and I kind of wish I hadn't. They had one of those Guitar Hero guitars. I want to get one of those for the kids, but it was for the Wii, and I wanted to get like the PS2 one. I should have got it. I don't know what I was thinking, but they wanted $10 for it. So I guess that would have been what, $7.50 on 25% off day. And I was like, you know what? I'd rather just pay the extra money and get the one for the system that I want. Since I don't know. I remember when those things were super, super, super cheap, and I just couldn't bring myself to do it. But it doesn't matter. I had a great time, and I got a stack of cassette tapes. I can take a picture of them in a row, post it on Cassette Culture, and get clicks on the arrow up button for internet currency that does nothing. Well, boys and girls, now that we've talked about the thrift store, I wrote down a couple things that I wanted to talk about before that. The only thing else that's on the list is Raiden 4. I played some more Raiden 4 for the next issue of the Tiger Score. I'm not beating my previous high score. It's not happening. My previous high score was in the 7 million range, 7.4 million. And I'm not breaking 5 million. Not since I returned to the game recently, but it's been fun trying. Anyway, let's get to the fail bag. Got an email from Hemrock. Hemrock, if you're out there, you know I love these emails. They're one of my favorite things. And let's see. He writes, CF, awesome episode. I'm loving the longer shows. Good. And a huge congrats on the new kiddo. Thanks, man. I would totally watch a video about beginner tips on Terraria as mentioned on the last TCR. Good. No worries about recording TCR at MagFest. For the record, I didn't take offense to not being on the show. I'm just glad to attend the con. Awesome, me too. I'm also happy to hear that was your favorite MagFest ever. It was my favorite MagFest too. But in all seriousness, why was it your favorite? All right, this is CF here. So, close second was the one from 4 years ago or 5 years ago. Geez Louise, where I went to the YouTube meetup, where basically John, Gamester81, took me and Vintage Video Game Geek and NES Complex and a bunch of other people and Arcade Impossible all out to for dinner. at the what was it now? The Cadillac Ranch. That's my favorite. Like that has been my favorite MagFest memory. Now, my friend Angie is like my childhood friend. I met him in 3rd grade. He wasn't going at that point. He didn't start going until like the following year. So the several years after that, it was just me and my friend. We would go. We would do 0 of the concerts. 0 of the concerts. We would just go. We would do the arcade. We would do the what do you call it? The console room. We would look at the vendors, and that was all we were interested in doing. We just did that. We seesawed between doing that and doing these long party/gaming sessions back in the room. So this past time was really the first time I had ever, with any seriousness, dug into the concert hall. I had kind of wandered in and wandered out a couple times in the past, but this past year, meeting Glowmag was an awesome moment because he was super cool, and watching that show was pretty mind blowing. The chip space was huge for me. The concert hall was pretty cool. I mean, it was kind of cool to see Mega Ran. I'm not much of a hip hop guy, but his show was pretty cool. But the chip space really spoke to me on like a deep kind of level from when I was younger, because I used to go to a lot of punk shows, and Hemrock, you were there at the chip space. You saw how small that was and how close the performer was. That's the way music was for me from about high school up till when I got married. So that feeling of like, we just saw this guy perform and now he's in the crowd watching the next guy perform. That feeling felt really good. It felt like when I was young again, because that's the way it was for me when I was in a band. It's the people who are watching your band or all the other guys in the other bands, because they know what they're looking at. So there was that, and it was hanging out with you and Angie back in the room playing Duck Game. That was amazing, and just all of it. It was the most, and also being there with my son was huge. So it was busy. It was also the busiest MagFest ever. But yeah, it was great. I'm glad you were there too. So let's get back to your email, because there's a lot of stuff here. Excuse me. He writes, my NES score is 100,070. I noticed that when I hit 100,000, the paddles on the board disappeared. I'm curious if anyone else has experienced this. Maybe it's just a glitch. And then he writes, well, I've only received one address for the Retro Junk Box this past week. Hopefully, more will be coming soon. All right. I don't want to brush past this NES pinball thing, because I was curious about this. For those of you who don't know what he's talking about, he was playing pinball. I mean, it's just like he said. He's playing pinball, and he put a screenshot of this. The paddles just vanished, the way he tells the story. And the question is, was that something that happens to everybody, or was it just a glitch? So, Hemrock, I'm curious if we've looked this up on YouTube. I'm going to look it up right now. Let's see. NES, pinball, paddles, disappear. I'm going to see if there's anything else. NES glitch, pinball wizard. 30 seconds. I'd hate to sit here and watch a YouTube video while I'm on the air. I mean, I'm not Joe Rogan. He does that all the time. But this guy I'm looking at, that has happened. His paddles have disappeared. Now, he's still able to play. Like, the paddles still exist, but you can't see them. So, let's see. The number one comment is, this is what happens. My friend, who holds the world record on this game, told me about it. So, hey, man, I guess that's the thing. I don't know what causes it. Unfortunately, in this video, this 30-second video, it's camera on-screen footage, and I can't see what his score is. Like, he just took a cell phone out and pointed it at the TV. So, yeah, that sucks, man. That really sucks. That makes me worry about about playing the game. Oh, what a bummer. Well, good for you for getting to for breaking 100K. I've never broken 100K in that game. I mean, you know what my high score is. Wait. Hang on a second. Hang on. Desm got to 113K. Desm, did the pals disappear for you? He got to 113,360. That's him. And I got close. I was at 93,000, and that's like my all-time high score in that game. Wow, that is really close. I wonder if I could break 100K. You know what? I'm gonna have to give it another shot. I felt like I had done all I could with that black box pinball because the first issue was like our pinball issue. I don't know. Once I'm done with Raiden 4, we'll have to go back and give it another spin because that's a good pinball game. Let's get back to the email because there's a whole lot more here. He also said there's only one address for the Retro Junk Box. Come on, guys. Where's my bros? I need to do this too. I need to make sure you get that address. But Retro Junk Box, I got a lot of cool stuff to put in that box. Never mind what's going to come out of it. I've got stuff to go in it. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Let's get back to the email. He writes, so you've been playing Europa Universalis Rome, huh? Why have I never heard of that game? It actually looks pretty cool, and it's 75% off on Steam right now. And guess what? The game runs on Windows. Yeah, I'm loving the Windows life, although I feel kind of guilty about it. Do you like the Europa Universalis series? Is this your favorite iteration, or do you have another? Why is it your favorite? All right, breaking from the email so we can answer that question. No, it's not my favorite. I play it because I was playing it on a laptop that couldn't handle the newest one. It's a fun game because I like the era that it's built in. It has some issues. Like, I find it harder to play as like a small nation. What was it? Which one's my favorite? Yes, I love that whole series. I love all the Europa Universalis games. And there's a lot of them. Okay? There's a lot of them. And there's games that are built with the Europa Universalis engine that aren't technically one of those games. For example, it's called For the Glory. It's just a game called For the Glory. And that was built on the Europa Universalis 1 engine. It's like the same kind of game. It plays like almost like an expansion pack, but it's more like a standalone expansion pack. So that game is $2.49 right now. My favorite one was the third one, Europa Universalis 3, because there was the most you could do. You could pick any nation, down to the smallest one, and you had options to influence the world around you. I put over 100 hours into that game. 100 hours in, and I'm still asking questions on how it works. So recently, when I picked up the mantle and ran with it again, I started checking out Europa Universalis 4, which I've had for a while, but I never really, I never took the time to figure it out. It's different from the first one, or from the third one, or from Rome. So I play Rome when I'm on my old beat-up laptop, but that's a good game too. Dude, you should get that Humble Bundle that's out right now. Okay? Let's go check it out. It has Europa Universalis 4 in like the $6 tier or something like that. But you don't even need that, my man. What you would benefit from is the $1 tier. It's got Crusader Kings 2 in it. All right? So, the way it works is Crusader Kings 2 is like the same kind of thing, except it's more focusing on you playing as the individuals that make up the kingdom, right? So you have a king, and you can choose which queen you want to marry, and you can use you can use marriages to form political ties, and you can order the assassinations of certain people. It's all top down from a map, but it's way more about the characters, the individual people that are playing, versus like, just the nations as shapes and colors. And it takes place, I think, like 200 to 400 years before Europa Universalis. So if you play Crusader Kings, you play the entire 200 to 400 years, whatever it is, and you reach the end year where the game stops, you can take your save file, port it over to Europa Universalis 4, That's where that game starts. That's the idea. Oh man, I feel like I'm geeking out hard about a game nobody's playing. Put it to you simple. EU4 is the one I like the best. Because it's the newest. It has workshop support, which is huge to me. And I play Rome because it's scalable on an old computer that can't run the new stuff. Now, you know how I love my big box games. I lament my mother's throwing out my big box games. It's more than 20 years ago, and it still boils my blood. I talked about it earlier in this episode. I've only gone back to get, like, maybe, I can see them right now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I own 10 big box games now. 10, that's it. And at least one of those games, Hemrock, you bought for me. That's Civ 2. You saw it on my shelf when you were here. And 2 of them I got from Sean, Rage of Mages and Command and Conquer. Those are from Sean. He sent those to me. One game that I made sure to get in big box was the original Europa Universalis. Okay, it's a tough series, my man. It is tough. I'm not gonna lie, but first of all, if I know anybody in this group who has a chance of actually digging this game or this series, you're it. And another thing, I also think you should know, you probably of all people know, these strategy games, if you can, get accustomed to them and you really figure out what all the numbers and sliders mean and what you're supposed to do, you can stick with the same game for years and years and years and years. And that's Europa Universalis, man. The way I see it, people either never touch this game or they've got hundreds of hours in it. There's no middle ground. There never is. All right, I got stalled out. You got a whole email here full of stuff. Plus I got comments over on YouTube. Let's get back to it and move on. Thank you for the Famicom recommendations. The Neketsu Hockey looks pretty sweet. All right, we're stopping the email again here because I wanted to make a bigger thing about that. You're right, Neketsu Hockey is an awesome game, but I asked Twitter what they thought, and they were able to answer on hashtag TCRFailbag. And we're going to see what they said in a second. Hashtag TCRFailbag. By the way, Twitter users, hit me up on hashtag TCRFailbag, and we'll have some fun with it. Yes. What are some good Famicom games that don't cost a lot? And I got a couple answers. I got one from Desm and one from Jerry Terrifying, whose name hasn't been spoken on this podcast in far too long. So Desm101 writes F1 Race, Challenger, King Kong 2, and Tower of Babel. So of all those, I recognize F1 Race, and so those are his picks. Jerry Terrifying writes Binary Land, and Bomberman 2 is worth owning also, he writes. So thank you, Jerry and Desm, for hitting me up on Twitter. Hemrock, I wanted to turn that question into like the theme of today's show, but I never got around to doing it. And I wanted to like pull my drawer out and just look, because there's a lot. There's a lot of games that are not a lot, but are cool to own for the Famicom. He goes on. So apparently some of these new games announced for the Switch have actually been out on other platforms for a while, as you pointed out. That's pretty typical for the Switch, and it's one of the most prominent downfalls. It's often the last of the consoles, including PC titles, to receive a port. Odalis and Anakin, 2 of the games I noted in my last email, are currently for sale on Steam for $249 and $124 respectively. If you like those 2 games, you should check out A Whole New World. It's on sale for Steam for about $4. All right, before you let you beat up on them too bad about that, I was kind of disappointed too when I first heard that. But on the other hand, they're getting games that have been out already. I don't know a whole lot about the Xbox, but is the Xbox getting ports of Steam games that have been out for 5 years? I don't know. Oniken's a good game. I don't know about the other one, but Oniken is a lot of fun. All right, back to the email. He writes, standing ovation for using LibreOffice to create the Tiger score. I'm a fan. I am too. You know why? Because I don't have to own a license to do LibreOffice. LibreOffice is something I download and I get it installed, and that's it. I don't have to worry about my license running out every year, like the more modern version of MS Office. Oh my gosh. Nobody has done more for the advancement of Linux and its tools than Microsoft. Jeez Louise. Back to the email. For the listeners that are still eagerly awaiting CF's Ouya review, Spawnwave from YouTube recently released a great retrospective of the console. This may tide people over until CF drops the truth bomb on the Ouya. You might want to check the review out here. Video game news. Big government is at it again, this time to try and tell you what games to play. Legislators in the state of Pennsylvania are considering a 10% tax on all mature rated games. See the article here. All right, stopping you right there. So I live in Maryland. Maryland is directly south of Pennsylvania. If Pennsylvania does this, watch people drive into Maryland to buy their video games. Just watch that happen. Was it Michigan who was thinking of something similar? They were going to put not just on mature games, but all video games. They were going to put a tax on. I don't think it worked out. You know, I never got the follow up for that story, but I think everyone was like, you know what? We're just going to drive across state lines and get them there. That's the kind of thing you have to do on a federal level. Because, video game, it's too late. If they had done this in 1994, parents would have been just like, yeah, it is what it is. But now it's like, there's too many of us. It's a $1 billion industry. I don't know. I could be wrong. I also thought we'd never get speed trap cameras, and they're here. So what are you going to do? He also writes, Xbox Live is coming to the Nintendo Switch and smartphones. Interesting. Is it now? All right. Up-and-coming retro-inspired Switch games. Magic Scroll Tactics. This will be released by the time the podcast is out. It's also available on Steam, where it is currently on sale. And Crosscode, which, again, is already available on Steam. And, of course, it's on sale. Anyways, I better get going. I've got some Steam games to purchase. Keep rolling retro, Hemrock. Hemrock, my man. My man. We just watched, my wife and I just watched American Gangster the other day. So I find myself saying that a lot. My man. Thanks for the email, buddy. It's always good to hear from you. Let's head over to YouTube, where I got a couple more comments. If I can navigate there. Thanks to everybody who listened last week. Last week was did pretty well. I mean, for me. So we got sorry, it's taking its time loading. 8 comments. Let me make sure I can see them all. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Nope, something's hidden. Newest first. All right, here we go. Death Adder writes, we've probably been commenting back and forth since like 2010. We're basically internet pen pals. Yeah, I think getting Discord, the Discord thing going would be a good idea. If you want to leave a link under this comment or on Steam DMs, same goes for Mecha Menace, it would be a good way for us all to get in contact. I've joined and quit Discord a couple times. I'm back on it now. It seems like the rooms are always dead, but it's a useful tool for sliding into DMs. As far as the old gang goes, I mostly just use Steam to have a conversation with Jerry or Swingle every once in a while. For Swingle, I use the Steam mobile for the bromance immersion. Talking to Swingle while not in a bubble bath just seems weird. Much like the water boy, Bobby Boucher, I lack the social skill, but maybe we can work out a podcast segment. Maybe we could spend an entire hour talking about Dead by Daylight skins alone. Whew, that would be fun.
The 2 greatest podcast hosts of all time on one MP3 just might crash the entire internet, brother.
Oh, wow, doing that impersonation makes me cough. All right. Death Adder, we got to do this. I have got to get you my Discord stuff. Let's see. I'm afraid if I launch Discord right now, because I want to do it right now, because I'm afraid it won't happen, but I'm afraid if I launch Discord right now, then it's going to mess up my recording, and if something messes up my recording, then I might not get it done at all. But you're right. We do need to get that set up. And I would love to get you on TCR. That would be awesome. TCR needs a good guest episode. We haven't had a guest episode in a very, very long time. Not counting the last Monster Cast. It's been a long time. All right. Mecha Menace writes, did anyone else think the cacophony at the beginning was their sound driver being busted? I'm listening through Bluetooth, so it's not far out throughout due to past aggravations. I'm in the podcast posse. I hit the 50-minute mark, and I'm still hitting the oral trail hard. No room for a 7800. You got a 2600. Sell the 2600. Get the backwards compatible 7800. Problem solved. Word of warning, though, the 7800 is a proprietary plug. Excuse me, I messed it up. The 7800 as a proprietary plug. Bend that wire too much, and replacing or repairing it can be expensive or a hassle. I'm pretty sure Soul Silver and Heart Gold launched at $40. You must have found a deal. Either that or you bought Fire Red or Leaf Green on GBA, which included the wireless adapter, for $30 on launch day. 3 kids, wow. I imagine it does feel great to be able to hand that amount of responsibility on those shoulders. If Sub-Zero Cold continues next week, remember Rystar on the Sega Genesis has a level which starts out with Rystar skiing down a slope. I usually don't give advice on the vid thumbnail, but Sonic 3 snowboarding this week and Rystar skiing next week would make a great duo. Yes, it would. Yes, it would, my man. A couple things. Let's talk about the 7800. I don't want to get rid of my 2600. When I was single, and I was working at a restaurant for tips, at a casual dining restaurant. I was a waiter. So all my money was in $1 bills. I had this ammo box that was filled with $1 bills, and that was my money. I didn't have any video games, and my computer was an old laptop that was running Windows 98 or Windows 98, and I didn't have an internet connection. It had a modem in it, but I couldn't afford an ISP. So I would connect through AOL using my brother's account. And I would talk to him like, yeah, all right, this is when I'm going to do it. And I would just get some ROMs, something like that. That was really all I could do on that computer. And that was when I bought my Atari 2600, was when I had this laptop. So that was really it was the system. After I moved out and my mom threw out all my possessions, that was the system that was all right, now I have video games again, was that 2600. So I'm a little attached to it. I bought it at, there was a CD and game exchange place. That was what it was called. And it was mostly music, but they were a licensed pawn shop, so once in a while, games consoles would come through, and I would pick them up one at a time. I would leave my job at the restaurant with all my ones. I would head over to the CD and game exchange, and I'd pick something up. And a lot of times I'd just be like, hey, I've got 20 ones for your registers. Can I have a $20 bill? And they were thrilled. You're like, yes, ones, and I don't have to go get them. So, yeah, I went there a lot. That's how I got my Atari. Later on, that was how I got my Sega Genesis and how I got my NES. So, yeah. I don't know if I would sell the Atari, but I might bag it up. If the 7800 is backwards compatible and there's no reason to have the 2600 out, I would bag it up and put it in the closet. But yeah, I definitely wouldn't sell it. But you do make a good point. So let's talk about the Pokemon thing. I guarantee you it wasn't $40, because if it was $40, especially then, I would not have bought Pokemon Soul Silver for $40. Now, I still have the box that came in, and it does have a price tag on it, but it's downstairs. So I can't go check it now. But it was cheaper than $40. It might have been $35. Wasn't $40. I can also tell you that it was definitely Soul Silver. I played all the way through that game to the ending credits. And it had a Pokewalker. The GBA did not come with a Pokewalker. But we'll get back to this on a future episode. I'll confirm how much it costs, and then we'll compare notes. Thanks for writing in, man. It's good to hear from you. Oh, he also writes, I forgot to mention, I will look into Discord. I thought it was like Merc, which I haven't used in years since the sharing channels are mostly dead. No. Discord is just let's hang out and listen and talk. There's actually a Discord channel for the next round. We've got one, and I'll put that. I will put that on as a response to your YouTube comment as soon as I'm done with this. Mecha Menace Man, it's good to hear from you. And now we've got, who's left? Alex Swingle. Hold on a second. Let me adjust this mic real quick. All right. Alex Swingle and Desmond 101. So Swingle writes, Odalis is hot garbage. If you like old school, character is too large to dodge anything, memorize every screen in order to win gameplay, you'll like it. I've played through 2 levels and was very unimpressed. Looked good, and that will be the thing that tricks you into buying it. Ouch. Desmond 101 writes, I dig the Ace Combat series quite a bit, but I usually stick to the older ones, PS2, PSP, PS1 entries. I'm similar in that I pretty much never buy newer games because of getting a deal / knowing if it's worth picking up. Aside from games like Cuphead, Metroid, Samus Returns, or Sonic Mania that I'm really anticipating. He leaves a time signature of 1 hour and 18 minutes. That score battle was intense. I think I got pretty lucky in my score because I rarely got over 2 million. Yeah. That's the thing about score battles, man. If you can stick with it long enough for that perfect score to come along, that's when it gets really, really interesting. When it's taking you like 30, 40 minutes to push the bar up a little bit further, that's when you know you really got something special. Let's get back to the comment. He writes, 1 hour and 23 minutes. Yeah, that's totally cool with me, man. He's responding to me talking about downloading his tracks. I'm stoked you're digging them tunes. By the way, congrats on the big news. Yes, Dism. Thanks, man. Thanks very much, and it's good to hear from you, buddy. I see you on Twitter a lot. I follow your Twitter comments quite a bit. Although I don't reply to people all that much on Twitter. I do a lot of reading and not a lot of posting on Twitter. But I definitely see you on there. And Swingle has a couple more, and that's the reason why I didn't thank him or say my goodbyes after his last one, because we got more from Swingle. And he writes, I'm glad you've gained a firmer appreciation for Resident Evil 5. I've got some bad news in regards to potential co-op games. Revelation 2 is local co-op only. There is a workaround thanks to our GPUs being good enough, but it doesn't look good for us to play the campaign together. The arcade mode is online co-op, so we have that. P.S. I only get upset when you misread the comment, then give me grief over the comment you misread. The concept of you fouling up a word or two in a sentence doesn't bother me. I'm more impressed with the on-air dyslexia than frustrated by it. How do you do it? How do you suddenly freeze up when reading aloud? Granted, I don't write the way you talk, chirps and whirs, but I'm definitely on the ball with English. All right, I know I did that to you, Alex. What he's talking about, everybody else out there, he wrote a comment, I don't know when it was, last year, longer ago than that. And I misread it, and I thought he was giving me crap about playing Wizardry. And I got really upset on there. I was like, man, I've had enough. I like it. And he was like, I didn't say any of that. You didn't read what I said right. So I felt really bad about that, and I'm sorry. Yeah, so I know I did that. My bad, broski. And I seem to be reading okay tonight. The words are coming out now. I think it definitely has to do more with my ability to focus on things. There's a certain threshold where if I'm not awake enough or I'm not able to pay attention enough, and I try and read anyway, that's what happens. My brain just starts sputtering out. It's like running a lawnmower, and the lawnmower starts to seize on you and stall, when it's starting to run out of gas. That's my brain. It does that sometimes. And the Resident Evil stuff, we saw each other on the Next Round Hangout a couple times, and we talked about that. Resident Evil Revelations 2, he has, and local co-op only. What are you gonna do? Honestly, Alex, I think we're gonna have the most fun getting into Resident Evil 6. I think that's where the good times are gonna be for us. So no rush. Take your time. Wait till it's on sale. But that's where I think the fun's going to be, even though that's a game that I'm sure has its problems. And let's see, that's all the comments from last week, but there were a couple from episodes past that I wanted to go over. So let's give me a second to dig those out here. I'm going to go off there for 1 second. All right, let's see. Light Studios puts one 3 days ago on a really old episode. When's this from? When's the episode from? It's the one with Lara Croft on the cover. That's nice to hear you comment on this one, dude, because this was the lowest rated podcast, like, in months when this came out. It was episode 262, 0 to Christmas in 30 seconds. And he writes, gee, Vancast sounds almost as good as Panzer Studios now. Yeah, man, that's pretty awesome. I noticed the jump as well myself, and it happened when I got my new smartphone. I went from the Galaxy S5 to the Galaxy S9, and the microphone on the S9 is a lot better. So there was a big jump in quality when I got the new phones. So I'm glad it's translating to a better quality podcast overall. Was that it? By the way, Sendu, it's good to hear from you again, man. It's been a while. I feel like there might have been other ones, other comments that I'm missing. Oh yeah, there's another one from the Gaming Beast. This is another old episode. Which one is this on? He writes, I really need to make a video of Pinball Illusions soon. Even though it's super late, we could try to do a Doom Night on the weekends. I'm like, yeah, man, it's never too late for Doom Night. I said that in text to him, and that's right. I'm up for Doom Night anytime. Anytime, my man. I'm gonna go looking for you once I get this done. It's 8:18 in the evening. You'll probably not be on, but it's never too late for Doom Night. It really isn't. And those of you guys out there, Mecha Menace and Swingle and Desm, you guys who were talking about getting on Discord, I'd be happy to walk through getting Doom set up for you guys, because that's a game that even the old computers, I got a computer that's not really for games. It's just a little. We can get Doom running, and we can shoot it out in Mega Man Deathmatch or whatever it is you want to play. Doom was always great for that. It was especially back in like the Gooch and the Douchebag days, because everybody was able to get it running. It took some time. Some people really, had trouble looking through the menus for some simple little options, but we made it happen. I feel like we can always make it happen again. Oh man, my stomach's bothering me. And I think with that, unless I'm missing something, that might actually be everything. Alright, boys and girls, here we are 1 hour and 23 minutes in, and I thought since I only had 2 Vancasts, this was going to be a short week. Man, I blew that one. I'm glad you guys like the longer podcasts. And with that, as we head off into this next week, we're getting ready for Valentine's Day. So I hope you guys, wherever you are, take this time to just do the best you can, have a good one. If you got somebody special in your life, give them a call, tell them you appreciate them. And if you don't, if you're flying solo, give your mom a call. Because you know what? Moms like that kind of stuff. Wish them a happy Valentine's Day. And if you don't have that, well then, God bless you. I'm thinking of you, brothers. Keep at it. Wishing you all the best. I'll see you next Monday.